Hey everybody, this is Will here with the Villain District Podcast. Thank you so much for downloading episode number 23. I just cannot believe we're already at number 23. The numbers are just racking up so fast, and we've had some great guests so far, and this one is no exception. So today we have on this podcast is Dr. Brandon Harwood, a PhD in sort of cultural and humanistic studies. He focuses on both Japanese culture and religion, and then also he's recently been focusing on the overlap between video games and religion and transcendence and all sorts of interesting stuff. So we had a great conversation with him. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. A couple of announcements, a couple of things to let you guys know about before we get into the episode. So Villain District, the band, will have a couple of shows coming up. We will be playing on August 7th at the Driftwood Music Festival at American Turners on River Road here in Louisville, Kentucky. We will actually be opening up that festival, so we will play at 4 p.m. that Friday, August the 7th. So, you know, there will be food trucks, there will be lots of bands, it'll be a lot of fun. So if you're in the area, please come, say hey to us. If you heard this announcement from the podcast, let us know that, because that's super interesting, and we would like to know. So that's one of them, and then there's another one that we'll let you know more about as it gets closer, which is on September 4th at the Tim Faulkner Art Gallery. That is also here in Louisville. So be on the lookout for both of those, and hopefully we'll see you at one of them. As per usual, you probably got this podcast off of either iTunes or more recently maybe Stitcher. So if you did, we would really appreciate it if you gave us a rating and review. That would just make our hearts sing with happiness. So without any further ado, we had a really great conversation this time. Let's get into Dr. Brandon Harwood. Roll it!
You are now a loyal follower of the Villain District Podcast.
So considering there are gnats all throughout the studio right now, and I do have little traps, I thought maybe I could open the podcast with...
A trap?
What is this?
It's a trap.
A building for gnats?
Well done. I like it. Yeah,
That's good.
That's good.
That's good.
That's what I have to offer today.
That's it.
That's good.
Surely you have more to offer than that. Surely.
I feel like this is in my way.
Surely.
It's like
Oh,
I
yeah.
have to dodge it.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. It's coming at you.
It's weird to
Yeah.
see it just right there the
Yeah.
whole time. Okay,
Nice.
there we go. I'm going to try to ignore it.
Just talking about the mic stand.
Yes.
Right.
I know you can't see that,
We've
listener.
Right, yeah.
You probably see the road.
What's that?
It's like an ongoing thing. We just assume
Yeah.
That people are
people
listening.
are driving.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sometimes I'm listening to while I'm doing the dishes, so I
Yeah.
see the wall.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Or
when
my
I'm
dishes.
cooking, I'll be cooking.
Yeah, that's good.
Cooking
Yeah.
a dish,
Yeah.
and then
It's probably bad. I've gotten to the point where it's like, it's just in. Unless I have to pay attention to something else, I'm
Right.
just listening to
I was going to
a
say,
podcast.
because you're always saying
really
how,
bad.
oh, have you listened to this, and this one this week?
It's just
And
constantly
I was like,
listening. Yeah, that's good.
I'm one drive into that first,
Right.
however long it took me to get from point A to point B.
Right.
That's how far I am to that into that podcast.
Right. No, I'm all the time.
Yeah, I'm listening to something almost all the time, but I have ADHD, so I'm like sometimes it's music, sometimes it's an audiobook, sometimes it's a podcast, sometimes it's a YouTube video that I just put in my pocket and
Yes.
just listen to what's happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've done that with Bob Ross, let me just say. I've done that with some Bob Ross before.
I wonder what that.
To relax you? Like
yeah,
what-
just
that's so good.
Just
Yeah.
a nice background for my
Yeah,
day sometimes.
That's right.
I wonder what that says about us.
I
Right?
don't know.
Because I'm like, let's get crude for a second. If I'm ever sitting on the toilet, I can't just like be with myself. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Just-
I got to pull the phone out.
You're afraid of the
pull
silence.
up a video, pull up Reddit, find a
Right, yeah.
video.
Right.
Well, that's as old as toilets, right? Like there's always been some sort of reading material
Right.
to
Oh,
have
true.
while you're
Totally.
on the toilet.
True.
Totally.
Yeah.
It was just analog before.
Right.
It was just
That's
a
right.
magazine.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you just have someone come with you and talk to you while you're
I wonder if you
in
could,
the outhouse.
Right, yeah. I wonder if you
Yeah.
could track that back. I wonder if there were like little games and stuff back in the ancient world where you could like, you know what I mean?
I like to think that my ancestors' outhouses had some sort of can And I'm not talking about the can.
Right, not the...
Some sort of can mounted to the side with a string that you pull tight into the house to where you can converse with your loved ones.
While you're... Yeah, so they don't have to be in there, but you can still talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
You don't have to slow
Why
the
not?
conversation down just because nature calls. Right?
That's good.
that.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
That was the tagline for Folgers. I don't know. I was trying to think of something.
Because you use the can?
Right.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Like,
I gotcha.
we understand that you're just going to drink this coffee and then use this can in your outhouse. We know what
That's
you're
right.
doing.
Yeah.
Well, you'll
Right.
be using your outhouse more if you drink the coffee. Like it
Oh,
helps
That's
true.
true.
you.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I've got it down to like a trigger.
That's a double win for Folgers.
That's right. They
Seems
should
like.
be putting
It's like-
stocks.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like toilet stocks.
Yeah.
That's not a thing.
Should be.
This is a great way to start off
Yeah.
a podcast.
Okay, game.
With,
On 1, 2, 3, I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to name the brand of a toilet. 1, 2, 3.
American Standard.
Wait,
You're kidding.
there are brands to toilets?
I think that's real.
I was going to...
Japanese. That's the brand I know.
was gonna-
Japanese toilet. That's it.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
I was going to make the cricket sound or something.
No, I was ready.
I'm
ready to go.
I could not tell you a single toilet brand name.
Really?
No. I couldn't even tell you a urinal brand, and I almost meticulously
yeah.
look down
Right.
at the
Yeah.
brand, that logo that's right on the top, and just focus on it, so I
Right.
don't have to think about anything else
Don't have to
in
think
this
about
public
anything.
toilet.
But it's not. You're not reading it.
No, so
Because,
I can't even pull any of it
Right.
back into my consciousness. Now.
Right.
So yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah. You're looking straight through it. But you're trying to summon the comfort gods, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So
to basically convince myself that I'm not actually in a public toilet.
Right.
That I'm someplace else.
Yeah.
And it's maybe in the middle of the woods or something
It's
where,
actually-
where it's more comforting.
Right. Right.
yeah.
That's a great. It's a great whole way to start a podcast with our first intellectual guest.
right. What are you going to be what are you afraid of when you're,
Wait, what?
you're standing there?
Oh yeah.
What's going to happen if you pee a little?
Yeah.
Your pee is going to go into the urinal.
Well, I think
Right.
it's
It's
mostly
true.
just embarrassment that I have to pee
Right.
in other people's
With a
presence.
lot of other people around.
That's the
It-
urban problem.
though it's
we're
like-
here and we
yeah.
have so many human things to do, and we have to do it with everyone else around us because we're stuck with them.
Right.
Right.
Unless you want to go out in the middle of nowhere,
Right.
Which who does?
Which you can't have a
Sorry.
job if you have to do that every time you have to use the bathroom. So
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So
There's a Dar Williams song. This is an old Dar Williams song, but it's sad too.
Yeah.
But it's called Mortal City, and it's about a city in the middle of a snowstorm, and everything it's coming down, right? So
Yeah.
and they have to. They've sent out this radio broadcast, right? I don't know if it's set in the 19th century. I'm not certain.
Yeah.
And everyone else has to turn off their power so that the hospital can use the power, right? But most of it is this sort of Tennessee Williams-esque conversation between this girl who came from the country to work at some sort of typing pool or something, and this blind date that she's been set up on. And she's incredibly uncomfortable with other people, and she doesn't understand how people can live in a city full of other people. And yet she, like everyone else at least on the block that he walked to get to her place, have turned off their power so that they could save people they don't even know. So there's this sort of conundrum of how do we live in this
Right.
incredibly dense urban environment, most of us, not everybody, right?
yeah.
And it almost encourages a kind of hatefulness towards other people and affection for them at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Like in the abstract, of course I'll turn my power off to help those at the hospital.
Right,
Right.
right.
But when
Yeah.
you're driving down the street, you hate everyone.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
They're all in your way all the time.
9 out of 10 people are dummies.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what my dad always tells me.
Right.
He says, if you don't learn anything else from me, learn this. 9 out of 10 people.
That's right. And maybe that's okay. Maybe
Right.
it's okay that most people are dummies, or most people are dummies sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to soften it somehow. But maybe
Yeah.
that's okay. Maybe we expect
yeah.
too much out of people. I'm
Yeah.
watching Seinfeld right now, right?
Oh,
So and
yeah.
that's everyone's dummies.
Yeah.
They're all
Yep.
the characters are all crazy.
Yeah.
And the world's full of crazy people.
Yes.
Right.
And they're upset about how crazy everyone else is when they're probably,
Right.
Yeah.
worse or
So
as crazy.
The most important thing you can do for yourself is to acknowledge when you're being the dummy.
Yeah, that's
Right.
right. Yeah.
Brings
yeah.
it's like a little brings things into like focus.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
Maybe
Per se.
maybe it's that not 9 out of 10 people are dummies, but everybody's a dummy 90% of the time, and so it just seems that way.
No.
Essentially, it must be the person that like,
Quickly,
this is either is or isn't a dummy.
Right. Well, I can acknowledge that I am 1
Right.
out of 10.
You're the one who's not.
Or you're one of the 9. Like you're the 10th that isn't a dummy, or
That's-
you're one of the 9.
Right.
of
No,
the
I'm
10
definitely not
that-
one of the 9.
Oh, there you go. Okay. That's
welcome,
good.
welcome to my podcast.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I was just wondering. I was trying to unpack the
This
math
is the
there.
space where
It's
you
like-
get to just just be alpha. Yeah, I'm not dumb. Everybody else is. Yeah.
And maybe that's okay. That's why I keep
Maybe
coming
that's
back
fine.
to. It's like,
Yeah.
I've been drinking too much coffee for like the past 2 weeks. I got this coffee maker.
Yeah.
It makes 12 cups of coffee, and I never had that much before.
Oh yeah.
And you make the full pot?
Yeah, and that's what I should stop doing.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you how many times that I've yelled at people in the past couple weeks.
Yeah.
Not yell, like
Right.
my version of yelling, which is
Yeah.
I look at them and say, "Don't do that." Because people are being stupid a lot of the times.
Yeah.
And I'm stupid sometimes too. So somebody, like, I feel a bit hypocritical that I'm going to be saying to somebody, "You're being stupid. Don't do
Right.
that."
Do you ever catch yourself and you're like, "Don't do that" when nobody's
yeah.
around? Yeah.
Constantly.
Well, that's good, I guess.
Yeah,
That way
yeah.
you're
constantly. Yeah,
you're
so
aware.
That's the way I'm not like one of the Seinfeld characters. Is that
Yeah.
they never seem to. They can figure out when the other Seinfeld characters are
Right.
being stupid, but
Right.
they can never figure out when they're being stupid.
What was there was Larry David had a phrase about the show, about Seinfeld, or the writers in general had a phrase that was "no hugging, no learning," was what I heard. So no hugging
Really?
allowed and no learning. Nobody can improve themselves and nobody gets to hug because that was
That's
their
great.
that was their
That's what
problem.
makes that show so
Yes,
good.
that was
That's
their
pretty
problem.
good.
That was their problem with other sitcoms, is that it was essentially little morality tales
Oh,
about
yeah,
do
they
this
are.
or do. And Seinfeld just escalates
That's
until everybody is even at their pinnacle of craziness,
right.
and then it freeze frames, and
Yeah.
you get the
Yeah,
executive
but
producer.
they're fine though.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean,
Oh yeah, no,
exactly.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, I've seen when I went to the pop culture conference.
Yeah.
in New Orleans, they had a Seinfeld marathon, and I caught the
Oh,
last
wow.
episode, which is about
Yeah.
them on trial,
Right.
basically for being assholes or misanthropes. Can I?
Yeah.
can I-
Yeah, yeah, it's
Sure.
fine. You're fine.
And then they go to jail. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean that's
Right.
the end of the season.
Yes.
That's the end of the series,
the
right?
series
They just
finale.
get put in jail for being dicks,
Yeah,
which they are.
yeah.
And they never get they never get better. There's
And that's
sometimes
it.
that I feel
Yeah.
like somebody new. So the most recent episode, Jerry goes into someone else's apartment. He's sleeping with this girl or something, or making out with her,
Yeah.
and he finds fungus cream in her
Right.
bathroom.
Yes, I remember
And
this.
He's been, for the past several episodes, he's been the one to look at George or Elaine and say, "You're being neurotic.
Yeah.
Stop being neurotic."
Yeah. Mhm.
And then he can't let go of this fungus cream, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
And everyone else is telling him he's being neurotic.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's,
That's so good.
but it's not inconsistent. It feels like
Yeah.
that's, like, it actually seems a bit more like real life to me. Like, it's,
Sure.
no, that's, yeah, you
He can't
are,
see his own.
no,
Right. Yeah.
you
So-
can't,
I have a new theory.
yeah.
Okay.
9 out of 10 people are dummies.
Okay.
That other one person is a dummy who can acknowledge when he's being a dummy.
Oh, there you
So
go.
if you can't,
Okay.
if you're not self-aware enough to coexist in a way that's coexistful,
Yeah. No, I
then
agree.
you're a dummy.
So everyone's a dummy.
Everyone's a dummy.
But 1 out of 10 people can acknowledge it.
Acknowledge
Is that
it
what you're
and
saying?
then act upon that.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Because there's nothing worse. Like it's that person that cannot admit that they're wrong
Right.
about something
Yeah.
because they won't allow themselves to see it.
Right. Gosh.
Yeah, well, that's
That-
true.
It's that Larry David style.
Love Larry David.
Well, Brandon Harwood is here. Yes. It's the longest introduction we've done.
You guys want to
that the
start the
introduction?
podcast?
Let's start the podcast. No. Thanks for coming.
Record.
This has already been great. Yeah, record. Right. Yeah. Exactly. So, Brandon, you are. We've known each other for a while, year or so, probably. Right.
Probably.
A little over, I guess.
Yeah. But
So I was
off and
coming to those-
on, like,
yeah.
I mean, you interviewed me through email about the
Yeah,
program
that's right. That's
first.
right. A long
yeah.
time ago.
I
But
thought you just said we've known each other for a long time. Years.
Oh,
or maybe a little longer.
or maybe longer than years.
Longer than
I'm like,
years.
No, probably
Does not compute.
You can just keep going with years.
Centuries.
Yeah.
Decades.
But you recently became a doctor. I hope I'm not
That's
embarrassing
right.
you saying that. You recently became a doctor.
I can't say anybody else
Which
but
is-
you all, so it doesn't
right.
matter.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. They're fictional. Nobody's hearing it.
Nothing else exists.
Exactly.
Solipsism.
Yeah. So we've always had like just interesting folks on to talk about creative processes and things like that, like bands, and comedians, and stuff like that. And I was thinking, Brandon's done awesome work, and it would be cool to talk to you about it. So
Okay.
thank you for being here.
Oh, you're welcome.
So yeah. Well, let me just ask you about this. You've been doing work with religion and video games recently.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
wasn't my dissertation, though.
No,
so,
that
yeah,
wasn't.
yeah.
I want to get to that. I want to ask you about that. But I figure we start with the
Oh, yeah,
most
what I've-
recent,
yeah,
the
what I've
stuff
been
that
thinking
you're
about,
like,
yeah.
yeah, for sure. So, well, first of all, what are you? Like, you're a doctor, but what does that mean for people who have no clue? I mean, you're not a medical doctor.
No.
Right.
I can't do any of that.
Right.
I've been telling people that I can't prescribe medication.
Right.
I can't suggest, what
I mean, I
what
guess you
diet
could.
you should have.
It just doesn't mean anything. maybe.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Yeah, I guess I could
You could do it.
suggest
Yeah.
certain dietary.
Right.
Yeah, I can do any of those. No, so what does that mean? I don't know if I can answer that.
I've
So
got it.
that
Okay, this is what you do.
all right,
Okay. You first
Yes.
of all, you need to get little cards with doctor on it. All right.
Just
doctor,
that word.
just
All
Doctor.
right. This is what you do. Log in to WebMD.
okay.
Start asking for symptoms
Yeah.
and start asking for credit cards.
Oh God.
You know? I'm just saying.
Right.
I'm
I
not
think that
saying-
works.
9 out
I'm
of 10
just-
people would fall for that.
9 out of 10.
Call back.
Yep. Yeah. So that's a hard question then.
Right.
What does that
so,
mean?
Well, it means that I'm an expert in something, but I'm not. So I don't.
Well,
I
yeah.
must be a sham, or the doctor is a sham.
I can't get that existential. So I mean, you study. What do you study? How about that?
So
what do you
I
spend the most time thinking about?
Religion and culture, right?
Yeah.
So what is it about religious ideas and religious beliefs and practices? I have to put those two together.
Yeah.
And how have they impacted the way people have lived their lives?
Yeah.
That's basically it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm less interested in theology, though I have to study some. I'm less interested in descriptions of rituals, though that's fascinating too. I think it can be really beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm interested in how it's been used and how they take it up, right?
Okay.
So there's a question. So we could have a question about what did the original Buddha actually say? What did he actually mean?
Yeah.
In my field, it's irrelevant.
It doesn't
right?
really matter.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
How did people pick up what the Buddha originally said?
Yeah.
So that's what matters.
Right.
And that's true and accurate for each individual community that we're looking at that moment. Yeah.
So how are people engaging with these either narratives or teachings or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But not so much. You're not doing work into who's the Buddha historically.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, who was he?
And there are people who do that.
Yeah.
you
Who
know.
Buddha is.
Thank good.
Who Buddha is.
Yeah, that's right. He is.
My
That's
contribution.
it. Or he was.
Right.
He used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're studying all this like cultural impact of religion. So in looking at video games, then what brings you to that question of how these two things intersect? Or
Yeah.
do you know what I mean?
Well, I find religion in my study. So I do mostly East Asia, right? So East Asian religion, which I find very dynamic. Not necessarily more dynamic than any other religion, but it's engaged, right?
Yeah,
so if you're not participating in the religion, then there's an understanding that you aren't in the religion quite, right? So let's take China, for instance, right? So it's amorphous, probably pre-Marxist China. You are a Buddhist, just kind of generally Buddhist, but if you don't practice the Buddhism, then it's understood that there's nothing that's going to happen, right? So you have to engage with it.
Right.
The monks are engaging with it the most. Lay people will do some sort of odd and end, maybe sort of like good fortune things to do, and maybe in their old age try to meditate a little bit more, something like that, right? So there's this expectation of engagement. And I think video games as a medium, either of culture, it's definitely of culture, but maybe of art, and that's the question I want to be able to say that it's a kind of artistic medium. It turns on engagement. You have to engage, right? Even more so than a reading, which you have to read. I mean, it can't happen unless you read the words, right?
Right.
And the game can't happen unless you play the game, but the sort of way you read the words or watch a movie is passive, always passive.
Yeah.
And the sort of way you play a game cannot be passive, or usually isn't passive. I mean, there's some games that are perhaps more passive. My brother just showed me one game, Cookie Madness. It was crazy. It runs in the background while you do other things.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just you get and you slowly accumulate cookie points and you buy new kinds of cookies.
Do you wait? So do you have a role? Like, do you do something?
No,
or
not
you just
not from what he showed me. I haven't played this game, so I
Wow.
probably shouldn't talk about it.
Right,
But like that,
but-
so that's a game that's
Sure.
a bit outside of what I meant.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
that's when I talk about
Yeah.
a game. Mostly, you have to engage with it somehow. You have to do something.
So it's like, so you talk about like engaging with a religious tradition or I guess any sort of cultural tradition, but in East Asian religion, right, there's this expectation of you're doing something, right? Practice is very important, doing something.
Right.
And that might be sort of different from what people around here think of when they think of religion.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're really steeped in sort of Western Christianity, which
Protestant specifically,
Protestantism,
right?
yeah.
Which is belief centered,
Yes,
right? By its very nature and purposefully.
Sure,
so
yeah.
Where what you believe is what's important. Not that practice isn't important,
right.
but if it came down to it, right,
Yeah.
which is the more important?
Yeah.
A lot of Protestant theologians would say it's the belief, right?
Right.
I have to believe in whatever the creed,
Yeah.
whatever because each one's going to be a little different.
Sure, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I can believe X, Y, and Z within Protestantism, and I can go out and just kind of live my life however I want. I mean, within
And you'd be Protestant.
and I'd
Yeah.
be Protestant.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I wouldn't be a good Protestant or whatever, but
Right.
But if I show up back to the Sunday
Yeah.
service the next week, and I'm
Right.
like, yeah, I've believed this stuff the whole time. They're like, oh, well, then you're
Right, yeah.
you're in.
Yeah, that's in the United States. That's kind of like when you talk to people, and I mean, there's ways that they can judge themselves about how good of a Baptist they're being, for instance.
Yeah.
But then they can come to, and let's say they don't go to church, but they believe it, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of engage with them, and they'll say, "Well, I'm Christian, right? So, well, what does
Yeah.
that mean? Well, it's because I believe it. I believe
Yeah.
this is true, right?
Yeah.
Jesus died for our sins. I believe this is true. I've always believed this is true. I always will believe this is true, right?
Yeah.
That's what it makes. That's how you can create that cultural identity.
That's the difference. Yeah.
Is just that belief.
Yeah.
Where that's missing in at least Asian religions more generally.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a certain sense that, so let's Hinduism, for instance. You're born Hindu, you're Hindu.
Okay.
Right? So,
Yeah.
but nothing else could change, right? So it's not quite the same thing where the Baptist could change. He could
Sure.
at some point not be Baptist if
Sure.
he decided, oh, I don't believe that anymore. I'm no longer Baptist. Like,
Yeah.
it's like
It would
I
just
am
happen.
now
Yeah.
something else.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Where a Hindu couldn't do that, and even let's say a Chinese Buddhist or Confucianism. I don't like that word. It's because Latinized already feels kind of imperial. But you're always going to be a part of Kong tradition, right?
Yeah.
I follow the things. I act in such a way that that Kong would have been pleased, right?
Oh,
He would have said that is proper.
Yeah.
That's kindness. I open the
Yeah.
door for someone. Is probably
Sure.
the best kind of analogy
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so do you get so you're saying the similarities, or at least one of the similarities, is between playing video games and religiosity in some way, is this engagement aspect.
Right.
Do you get pushback against that with people who are used to like Christian Protestantism, who are like, what do video games have to do with believing anything?
Well, at the moment, right? Oh, I'll let you go. Yeah.
I was going to say, you don't
Yeah.
believe in Halo?
Right. I mean, let's not get crazy. Of course,
like-
I believe in Halo.
Grow up,
Right.
Grow up.
Of course.
Master Chief is there. I've seen him.
That's right. Yeah.
Anyway.
You've seen Cortana. Yeah,
Exactly.
we listened to her.
We hear.
We followed her instructions, and
Yes.
things got better because of her. Yeah, sure, absolutely.
So no
Right.
question.
So no. Right. Actually, the article I'm working on right now is kind of a bit. I'm criticizing when other people start comparing religion and video games.
Okay.
So I think that that's an interesting question, and I think that there's some games that have religious elements either directly or indirectly.
Yeah.
Right? So everyone's kind of coming up with new language, right?
Yeah.
So I just read someone, Mark Hayes, and I think he used implicit and explicit curriculum, I think is his phrase that he used, meaning that something can have something that it's trying to teach, and then there's something that it happens to teach while it's trying to teach.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay.
Right.
So Halo's not necessarily trying to teach you how to shoot, but you might just learn if you keep playing.
Oh,
or
no,
something?
no. It is trying to teach you how to shoot.
It is trying to teach
so
you.
that
Okay.
that wouldn't be explicit.
Okay.
So because if you don't learn how to shoot, you're not going to get it very far.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Shoot in the digital world.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
That explains
that's what
a
I
lot
mean.
for
Yeah.
my Halo skills.
Right.
I need to.
You didn't learn how to shoot.
Right. That's the
yeah.
problem. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So, but it could also teach you Halo, for
Yeah.
instance, which I've not played much of. So
Sure.
I
yeah,
haven't either.
I haven't either. So.
It's the first game I thought of.
yeah.
Yeah, so it could also implicitly teach you about something else,
Yeah.
about the importance of saving the world. I have no idea what even the larger storyline
Right.
is. I have no idea what happens.
Aliens? I don't know.
Other
No.
people are bad.
Right.
Maybe
I was
that's
going to say, let's move it over to
Something else.
Call of Duty. That's pretty interesting, though, right?
What's that?
Call of Duty.
Call of Duty?
So you're like
Yeah.
you're playing a game inside of an actual war that happened, right?
Right, yeah.
So that's pretty
I think
messed up.
some of them are fictional, but there's definitely
The
like
ones
a
that aren't
World
fictional,
War
that's
II.
pretty messed up.
Right.
Right.
Are the scenarios? That's something I also haven't played that. But are the scenarios based on actual battle?
I think so. So there was
Yeah, that's
I think
cool.
the final battle in one of the Call of Duties, and this was 6 years ago, so I don't know if I'm getting this right, but it was Berlin. It was like at the end of World War II, and and I don't know how closely, it's at the end of the day, it's a little video game map,
Right,
and
right, yeah.
you're just trying to get to the point where you can take down the Nazi flag or whatever. But
Right.
but yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, is that messed up, or is that do you do work? Because that's an engaging game.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and that's it. So that's a little outside of my
Sure,
question, which is
right.
more about religion. But
Right.
there's the overlap here is, so what the game does is that it puts you in a world, gives you a character within that world, and you control both that character and the way the world works, right? So,
Yeah.
so what happens in the world, right? So it kind of emulates in metaphorically, or maybe as an analogy. I don't know what language I want.
Yeah.
The real world, right? Because that's what we do right now. I
Sure.
think that I have some sort of control over what I do,
Right.
generally, and it seems that the world responds to the sorts of things that I do,
Right.
and so this creates a sort of alternate version of that, and so that lends itself to the possibility of transformation, education, right? So mostly
Yeah.
those two things. So I'm
Yeah.
interested. Mark Hayes, he's talking about he's talking about religious education
Right.
in that article I've read recently. I think I'm more interested in ways that you can be transformed through the art, through playing games,
Okay.
right? In the way that I think you can be transformed by watching, like Lars von Trier. We were talking about Lars von Trier yesterday, right? So I think that good art, right, whether film or a painting or an excellent novel, can change you. You're not the same after having read it. And I wonder if games can do the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
And my specialty is religion, so my question is about religious elements, right? So,
Okay.
and what are religious elements, right?
yeah.
So, like, it's morality, it's belief about the way the world works.
Sure.
And so, there's some ways that other scholars are talking about this that are too direct. I think that they see that when you play a game, you're seeing a religion, right? So you're
Right.
like you're seeing a war.
Yeah.
And that's where I get off. I get off
So
the
like
boat.
a game depicts Buddhism or
Right.
something, or
Right.
or there was one video game I heard about where you're shooting aliens and you're doing it in a chapel.
That's right.
Right,
They were very
yes.
upset about that.
Right.
Is it? I
Yes.
always get the is it?
Or a cathedral, I'm sorry, something like
Yeah,
that.
it was
Yes.
a cathedral.
It was a cathedral.
That's right. And I
Yeah.
can't remember which cathedral.
Yes, and
It's
they were
like
very upset.
Westminster
Yes,
Abbey,
because
or
you're using guns,
something
killing
cathedral,
aliens.
Manchester.
Right. So is the problem the guns, or is the problem the aliens existing within the church?
No, it's
Oh, right.
the destruction of the church was why they're upset,
Okay.
Yeah.
and its association with gun violence, which that
Right.
town had recently or has had a problem with gun violence,
Oh,
and
right.
the church gives they have services for the families that have lost people
Yeah.
in gun violence. Anyway, so it was just a little too close.
Yeah.
That didn't go anywhere though. They could, they legally were going to try to do something, and then it didn't matter. Like
Yeah.
Sony or whoever, I think it was Sony that made that. I think had done the research and they had gotten all the appropriate rights, and it was okay. Like
Oh,
they could,
yeah.
yeah.
Even though it might have been inappropriate, like there was nothing they could do about
Well,
it.
they're
like,
attacking
legally or whatever.
aliens, so and they're not supposed to be destroying the cathedral.
Right. It just happens as a byproduct of
That's
shooting
right.
at aliens.
It's also
So-
a flawless representation of it, though. It
Oh,
is
right,
kind of a
right.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, if you could have a game mode where you could just walk through it,
Yeah.
it could have been an incredibly different kind of
Yeah.
response.
So,
right?
When you're asking questions about religion and video games, you're not necessarily saying things like that, where we see a cathedral and cathedrals are religious, and this is in a video game. Not that, not that direct link.
Well, I'm not. Rachel Wagner, she wrote about that in one sort of possibility. She's very smart. Though that's what I'm right now trying to decide whether I agree with her wholeheartedly or if I'm in some sort of subtle way disagreeing with her.
Sure.
So one possible argument for that is, people who see this building as sacred also see its representation in a digital world sacred, so that must mean that it is sacred in the digital world. She doesn't say that. She doesn't go that far, but that's that's one thing that she sets up as a possibility that she mostly refutes.
Yeah.
Or doesn't refute, but she said, that's probably not the direction we want to go with this. But she wants to say that it is possible that a digital space could be made sacred or could be thought of as sacred.
Right.
And in some ways, they did find not the digital space sacred, but that it was capable of blaspheming the actual space.
Okay. Yeah.
The real space. I don't know if I like the word actual, but
yeah. But yeah, so I mean, like if you're in a digital cathedral and you're shooting at aliens and you're devoutly Catholic, right? Are you in some sense are you operating in some way?
This is Anglican.
Oh, it's Anglican.
I think this one's Anglican.
If you're devoutly Anglican, are you operating in some way in a special or sort of sacred site? If you're shooting aliens in this thing, or is it inappropriate to go? It's in a video game.
It doesn't
I'll
matter.
shoot the
That's
aliens.
right. Yeah.
Let's take them down.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Sure. I think that people could have both responses. I think that it was, it also seemed ambiguous enough that it wouldn't. I don't think it would offend absolutely everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've not played that game either. It was a Resistance: Fall of Man, I think is what that one was.
Yeah.
There's another one of a similar. Like before that one, Hitman 2, I think.
Okay.
Set
Yes.
it in the Golden Temple,
The bald
right? In
guy.
Amritsar.
Yeah, bald guy.
And they eventually, I think, took out that scenario. I don't think it was. I think it was eventually censored.
It was too
because
offensive or something.
it came too close to being the invasion on the Golden Temple, right, in Amritsar. Yeah, so that seems more direct. Where this Resistance is about an invasion of an alien species.
Yeah.
And if that were to happen, of course, that aliens would have gone into the temple, and or not the temple, the cathedral.
Yeah. Those dirty aliens would have no respect.
That's right. They have no respect, but we still have to defend our planet, right? So we have to go with it. So there might be no conflict there. The real question for me is so what if you are devout Christian and you believe in Christian morality? Let's be more specific. Let's say Baptist morality, Southern Baptist. Can you play something like, what's the one where you have to
Grand Theft Auto?
Grand Theft Auto, right? So is it okay for you and your own self-identity to do nasty, horrible things in that game, which I also believe does punish you in some ways. I think if he murders people, he gets haunted by them in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's...
Some of them do. Having played that game through, the new game, Grand Theft Auto, you can be 3 different characters.
Yeah.
And you played quite a bit of that with me, right? Didn't you, Joe?
I drove really fast in the cars.
You didn't play much of the story part?
I didn't do any of the stories.
Oh, okay.
Jake did most of that.
Yeah, me and Jake did most of that. There's one character who's just clearly sociopathic.
Right.
Like,
so
clearly.
He is in no way affected.
He really doesn't. It's weird. They play him as having this real strict sort of moral code.
Yeah.
Against, like the man or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, he hates the government and all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, he has no problem killing anyone. And he really doesn't get punished throughout that game. Like, and there were some studies that I'd read, a study I saw referenced somewhere, so who knows? Get your grain of salt ready. But it was saying you can choose who you're playing as. And so when people just free roamed with this character, they behaved in the game more sociopathically. They would do more crazy stuff.
They're not being punished by the game. That's
like
interesting.
That.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
does it benefit you to play that character? Like, is the game encouraging you to play the sociopath because it's basically OP. It's overpowered, right?
Oh yeah. No, they're all pretty equal. But you have to play all of them at different points in the story.
Oh, okay.
So it's a story involving 3 men, and it just kind of intertwines, and you have to play different ones at different times. But in those free spaces,
Right.
you can be whoever. So, but I mean, your question is interesting. Does that have any sort of moral implications for doing that? So,
Right. So, and I, in my sense, so I'm interested. Does it actually make people more violent? Right. That's a larger question. That's interesting. I don't even know how we would go about looking into that. Another question I have is more: when someone plays it, do they feel bad? Do they go in? I've slapped some whores.
Yeah.
I stole some cars.
Right.
And then I'm out in the real world, and I just have this urge. I see a car, and I wonder, how do I take that car? Right. So does that happen? Is there slippage?
Yeah.
Because I think that I find slippage in my own play. Like when I play a game, I do notice that my thoughts are different when I go out in the world.
Okay.
Right. So when I'm interested, one of the games I'm working with is Okami, which is a Capcom game. It's kind of old.
I've heard of it.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's designed to look like a sort of updated version of traditional Japanese arts. Ukiyo-e, which is like this woodblock printing, or kirie, which is a paper cutted art, right? So you cut out little solid pieces of paper and arrange them to make designs. It's beautiful. So, and in the game, you're a goddess in wolf form. You're Amaterasu, and you have to go around and save all of the citizens of Japan. There's been this horrible Orochi in this dark magic, right, has infiltrated and polluted basically Japan. Everything looks smoky and oozy and like it was hit with an atomic bomb. And she can go around and use her magic paintbrush to heal the world, basically. And one of the things I think happens when you play the game like that is that it's explicitly religious. I mean, it is Shintoism in a light, kid-friendly way, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Shintoism is kid-friendly normally, but I mean, it's simplified. It's very simplified. But it definitely has explicit religious elements. But I wonder if you are encouraged to go around this entire digital world that's like, a digital animated-ish version of Japan, looking for things that are polluted and dirty, and clean them up.
Yeah.
Does it change the way you look at the world that is this world, right? Which doesn't look the same in this case. So Grand Theft Auto looks a little bit closer to what our real world looks like than this does. I mean, it looks like you're walking through a painting. It doesn't look like a real world.
Yeah.
And so that's my question. So it is not that can you play this game and all of a sudden basically be Shinto, which is some of the people that I've read get close to saying things like that. Not about this game.
Really?
Oh, yeah. One of them was talking about Fatal Frame, which is a mixed, so it's it's a Japanese horror game, which is excellent. Oh, it is so excellent. And it has Buddhist and Shinto elements to it.
Yeah.
And you have to perform the rituals to make it through the game. You, as the main character, has to perform these rituals. But they're made up rituals. They're fictional horror rituals that are called strangling ritual, right? So it's nothing. It's nothing.
Yeah.
So it's already a fictionalized religion.
Yeah.
And also, you're not practicing the religion. Like, you might be So I don't think that's what's happening in Okami either. I don't think you're all of a sudden now basically practicing Shintoism.
You're just poof, you're religious.
Right.
Because you've been doing this.
But is it making you think about those questions? About the interconnectivity between man and nature, between man, and between man and the supernatural. Right?
Sure.
So these are all like elements of the game, explicit elements again, but there's this implicit rewarding of believing it. If I believe it and I get farther into the game, right? I heal the world. It becomes more beautiful. I'm satisfied because of how beautiful it looks.
Yeah.
So I'm rewarded. So I'm wondering if that has any sort of effect such that it acts as a kind of transformative element, as high as the level of art. The analogy I use is, so what I'm looking for in a game or wondering is, can it be religious art in the same way that something like Bernini's The Ecstasy of St. Teresa is religious art? Yeah. It's transcendent.
Wait, describe that a little bit.
So it shows it's a sculpture in marble maybe, and it shows St. Teresa, who's a Spanish mystic of the Renaissance period, and she is floating above. So if you go, you see it in the chapel, right? So it's in the small little corridor there's an opening at the top, so there's sun rays coming down depending on what time of day it is, and he has long strands of gold, right, that catch the light and kind of direct your eye down to Teresa, right? So, and she's there, her face is in the throes of ecstasy, and there's a little angel above her with a heart, or excuse me, with an arrow pointing down to her heart, right? And and it's referencing when she experienced the sort of mystical union with Christ, right? Which she describes in honestly very sexual terms,
right?
But that to kind of emphasize that ecstatic quality, And Bernini's an expert, right? So he's an expert. So when you go and you look upon her face, right, there's a sort of empathic response, whether you're Catholic or not, right?
Sure.
Whether you believe that Teresa was, no matter what you believe, you can have this sort of like, oh yeah, that happens, right? It touches you, and it might even change you a little bit.
It describes something about the human condition in a way.
That's what I think. So religious art can do that, such that I don't have to believe any of it. I don't have to practice the religion. And still, it manages to get me to be religious for like a second, right? So that, I mean, I could be completely an atheist and go to something like the statue of Saint Teresa and say, oh, I have a sense of what the transcendent might be like if it were to exist.
Right.
So it's religious of that sort, right? So I think that video games might get up to that too, right? So I can be someone who has absolutely no interest in the environment, and when I play Okami, my question is, do I at least see how beautiful the world is when it's flourishing, as opposed to when it is being oppressed by whatever, right?
Right. Well, and that, I mean, as you're talking about that reminds me, like, I was thinking about, the difference in how the worlds will respond when you're playing these games, right? So the point of that game, it sounds like, is to be productive, is to fix things and make things better, make things work in their natural order, or not natural, but make them work in order and all this kind of thing. Grand Theft Auto, on the other hand, is primarily about destruction, right? The only production you're going to do is you're going to get a bunch of money. Talking about this reminded me of Tiff, Joe's girlfriend, playing Grand Theft Auto.
Right.
You should talk about that.
Yeah.
Because
as soon as she picks up the controller, she starts driving very slowly. And if she sees a red light, she'll stop.
She stops. Yeah.
And if she bumps into something, it's like anxiety.
Oh, no.
Anxious. No, this is bad.
Yeah.
And then she was sitting with Maggie, and Will and Jake were playing the game. I don't remember what they were doing, but in the real world, if you were doing this thing to whatever they were doing, it's like, it's bad.
Yeah,
don't
it's bad.
You don't do that.
Yeah.
Right? And, Maggie and Tiff were like, what does that mean about you guys? Like, this is, you should not be doing this.
Right. Oh, I know what it was. We were driving up and I'm not going to pretend that I'm above this. I love going into that game and just, nothing sadistic, but like destroying cars, blowing up cars. I mean, it's just great. And so we were driving up a mountain and we ran over a mountain lion. There are mountain lions up there. And so we ran over one of those and they were like, what does this mean that you just killed an animal? You know what I mean? You killed an innocent animal and all this stuff. And they were trying, like, I remember Tiff asking, is there a place where you can like go watch a movie or something? Like, can you go see the sights or something in the city? And
that's what real life's
like
for.
That.
Yeah. That's
exactly.
why
there are digital worlds for that too, right?
Yeah, sure.
I know Sony made one for a little while. It was like a Sims version that you go in to this world and you have a little avatar and you can walk around and there are other people in there too, and there's a game room and you can go play games that exist in that game room.
Games in the game.
Right.
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah, and you can go to a movie theater and watch an actual movie. Like, so you can stream. I don't know. Bad Taste or whatever. Whatever they're streaming there. Probably not Bad Taste, but that exists too, right? So, and when you create these huge worlds, there is a kind of digital tourism that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the question. And so when you go into these worlds, though, you're not the same person, right?
Right.
So there definitely has to be some sort of disconnect where you can go through. And what I'm wondering is it a disconnect that's a true, full disconnect where this is an entirely a fictional world?
Yeah.
I can do whatever I want here. It doesn't have any bearing on who I am as a person.
Yes.
And so some of us can take a different stance of that and saying, oh, okay, so like Tiff doesn't want to do anything bad in this world, even though the real world will not punish her for it. She just has this sort of I'm going to be the sort of gamer who doesn't run red lights. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
And the interesting thing is, it's practically impossible in that game. Like it's practically
very difficult to drive
right. Because the way it's set up is, if you drive at a normal speed, it's the landscape set up to make it look like you're speeding. If you try to drive at the speed the rest of the cars are going, it's set up to look like you're going 2 miles an hour. Do you know what I'm saying?
You're just
barely going.
Button.
I remember Maggie, when Maggie was playing, she got out of the car and she walked up to somebody on the street and she was trying to speak to them. And
you told me this before. That's right. Yeah.
She just hit the button to try to speak. How do you speak? And she hit a button and he kicked him in the face. It was awful.
Right.
She was like, no. And with each subsequent button press, the person got hurt more. It's just set up to do that.
Right. Yeah. Right.
You know?
Yeah. Like you're put into this world. So one of the things that I find a close analogy, or in my head, I'm mulling it over, is the sort of horror movies that people call torture porn.
Yeah.
Right.
So I could watch Saw, or we were talking about Von Trier's Antichrist.
Yeah.
Right. And it might be called torture porn, right? So there are really horrible things happening to people. And why else would we be watching it if we didn't get something out of, some pleasure out of seeing this fictional event happening with fictional people, but doing these horrible things?
Yeah.
And I have no answers yet, but that seems like there might be something similar there.
Yeah,
right?
that's interesting, because anytime I watch a movie like that, I really struggle with it. I'll leave the movie just feeling weird,
right?
You know,
And
Will and I have a friend who watches those kinds of movies on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
Really enjoys those movies.
Yeah,
and I was just kind of questioning him about it one day. And jokingly, I said, well, what does that say about you? Like, not thinking, and like, I really hurt his feelings. You know what I mean? And I didn't mean to.
No.
But
you're probably not the first person to say that, right? Which probably. I mean, I like those movies. I don't watch them that often, I guess.
Sure.
But and I don't think that I'm a worse person for watching it.
Right.
I'm watching it, so this might be one of the differences. In the game, I would be doing it, digitally doing it, but doing it. But this is, I'm watching it, and also, I mean, we could have any sort of number of stances while watching it. So I could be watching Antichrist, for instance, and say to myself, well, that one's, I find that, we've talked about, found that really complicated. My reaction to it is complicated.
That's a very high art sort of film, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's very deep.
It's supposed to make it really, So Saw, for instance.
Yes.
I can look at this and say, oh, how horrible. How horrible that is. So I would be better of a person because I'm watching Saw or something. But of course, I must be enjoying it in some ways. I'm not turning away or... Yeah.
And a few days later, the same guy came back to me and he's like, I thought about what you said. I think it's like basically a pissing contest, like deciding what I can handle compared to my friends.
Testing your limits.
Which was interesting.
Yeah.
I'd never really thought about it that way.
Yeah, I think there's that aspect. What will I watch? Also, what will I not turn away from? I've done that with a friend of mine who loves JC, right? She loves horror movies.
Yeah.
And we were in a horror movie class together.
Oh, right.
And I was determined that anything that she would look at, I would look at.
Oh.
So, and I was watching, and she doesn't turn away. And then we got to a Miike film, and she turned away from that. And I was like, I'm going to watch it.
Yeah.
Because I'm stronger than she is.
Right. Right.
Which is horrible, but there's a sort of pissing contest. I can handle this.
I can handle it. Yeah. I cannot handle it. I've heard about this class that you took, and I just can't. I remember we went and saw the first Saw movie
when it came out.
When it came out in theaters.
I feel like we were just like 18 years old, but we were probably older.
Probably older than that. But I remember us talking about that and being like, I'd just rather be dead than be in that situation. It's just like really meditating on death. Late teens.
Right.
Because of that, just
isn't that like that gets close to this sort of transcendent existential moment where I think that even if it's torture porn, maybe it actually got you to mull something over that you wouldn't have before watching it.
Yeah.
So Mark Hayes, again, which is the one I most recently read, and I've been writing about it, so that's why it's most fresh in my head.
Yeah.
He's comparing a Christian video game, Left Behind.
Oh, there's a video game of that?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
wow.
Yeah. Hey, that's interesting.
I need to find that.
Anyway. Oh, it's interesting. So let me describe Left Behind for a second.
Please.
So you go in and you're in this world and you're a part of the Lord's army, and there's evil beings. And one of the things that you can do in the game is you walk up to these other people, and immediately the game will tell you whether they're good, bad, or indifferent. Right. So if they're good, they have a green spirit bar. If they're bad, they have a red one. If they're neutral, they have a gray one, and the neutral ones you can personally evangelize to.
Oh my goodness!
And you can recruit them for the Lord's army, basically, right? So in the world of the game, right? That's kind of it becomes that kind of simplistic.
Yeah.
Which maybe the Left Behind. I don't know. I haven't read it. I don't know. So that's the Left Behind game, and he was criticizing it for being too simplistic. That it's not gonna. It's kind of pedantic in its moral message. Sure.
Good guys, bad guys, this kind of thing.
Yeah. And here evangelize, but the evangelize is like a button click. Yeah. Like it's like that's not what evangelism is in any real form of it.
Sure.
And then he compares it to Ultima 4, which I've never played. I think it's called something of the Avatar or something like that.
Okay.
The Quest of the Avatar. And he thinks that Ultima 4, even though it's not created by a designer who intends for it to be religious, it's not about a real religion. It's not about a religion in the real world or the actual world. Again, I don't like any of this language. So, but it gets you to be moral or consider what sorts of actions are good and are not good, and you, to succeed, have to raise your virtue. Like in these different valor, compassion, justice. There might be some others, something like that.
Yeah.
But the game doesn't tell you anything about how the moral economy works. So some things like running away from monsters, for instance, won't lower your valor. It'll actually increase your compassion. Excuse me, animals, right? So neutral monsters. But running away from an evil monster will lower your valor more than attacking. Right, so it doesn't tell you this. Like, this is figured out by people who've played it and like kind of mathematically like found the system beneath beneath what's being told. So he thinks this is good for several reasons. One, it's a moral economy, right? Which he thinks religion has to have at least some aspect of that. It punishes you for bad deeds. It rewards you for good deeds, and it asks you to. How does he say it? He says that it has a gradual revelation or something like that, where things are not revealed to you. They're not just given to you. You have to grapple with them. Okay. And Ultima, you have to do that. Left Behind, you don't. And so Left Behind teaches nothing to a Christian audience. So he's assuming his specialty is Christian education, right? So he's assuming a Christian audience for this argument. Yeah. So the Left Behind series might teach nothing except for just a very basic don't do bad, do good, and evangelize, something like that. Like something really basic. Where Ultima might ask you to think about what is a compassionate action and to whom do I act compassionately? What makes valor, right? So it asks you to grapple with these questions. And in that process, you don't just find out something about this game world. Yeah. You find something about the nature of that question outside of the game world.
Sure. Right.
So that revelation and that contemplation about the revelation is what he finds so important, and that's what I think can happen in some video games. Yeah, and definitely happens in some kinds of art. Right? Yeah, maybe Saw. I don't know. Maybe Saw.
Yeah. Well, and I mean part of what it sounds like you're hitting on too is this sort of. And I don't know how you would want to talk about it, but this sort of decoupling or coming apart of religion, what we call religion, and then like the transcendent or the moral or ethical or something like that. So you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like the Left Behind game is clearly religious, right? It's about Jesus. It's about getting people to be on Jesus' army or whatever it is.
It's learning to draw boundaries, us and them.
Right. Yeah. Sure. And the us in this case is Christians, right? Right. Or particular type of Protestant Christians, whatever. Yeah. But yeah, and then this other game, not explicitly what we would think of as religious. So yeah, that's a whole other sort of thing.
But he played it and he found it to be helpful for his religious thought, right?
Yeah.
So, and maybe that can just happen to anything, whenever, however, right? So that's one possibility, is that games and maybe even art can never do that, right? Or it does it no more often than I walk outside and I see a butterfly flit past me and I'm like, oh Christ,
yeah.
So that's the question. I want to think that perhaps it does, right? Perhaps something well crafted and well performed, can get you to think about something, and when you wouldn't have normally,
right?
And to go back to Grand Theft Auto, I don't think it does. I think it maybe for some people they play it and they might, like Tiff might play it and say, why should I run that red light? Seems no good reason to me.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's super interesting. All those issues, and obviously it's not like, well, what's your answer, right? Or whatever. It's not those type of questions. But another thing I wanted to ask you about was just your journey into where you are now. You know what I mean? Just what makes you interested in religion at all? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And if there's a don't share anything you don't want to. But
no, it's fine. I don't know if I have an answer to that even. How are any of us anywhere?
Right.
Like, how did I get here? I have no idea.
Right.
Well, I went and watched Ninja Turtles on tour.
Is that why how you got to be here?
Like, you want to know? Partially.
And now I got a podcast.
Yeah. When I was a kid, my parents took my sister and I to Ninja Turtles Live. They had, their 3 fingers, and they were playing their fake guitars and stuff. Nice. I went home and had my grandfather carve me out a fake guitar out of a piece of plywood, and I kept it for years and years and played it until eventually I was like, Mom, can I get an electric guitar?
There you go.
And she's like, yeah. So she got me my first electric guitar. I learned to play it, and now I'm here.
That's pretty great.
There you go.
Yeah, no, that's good. I don't know if I have a good origin story.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking, religiously, we grew up around very homogenized sort of. That's probably to do it a disservice, but from my memory, a very homogenized sort of just Southern Protestantism, small town Kentucky.
Sure,
Baptist or whatever, right? So that was a lot of
the assumption. There's an assumption there, right?
Right, sure.
Whereas here, you don't assume that anyone believes anything,
right? Exactly, yeah. So I just didn't know where were you situated, or what?
Yeah.
What were you around? Or
well, so I was born and spent my first 8 years in Michigan.
Yeah,
and but spent most of my formative years in a small county, right? So Elkton, Kentucky, which is in Todd County, which has a variety of mostly Protestant. There are Catholics there too, but I remember them being looked down upon. But so mostly Protestant. And my family's not anything, right? So my mom's side of the family, they don't do anything. Like they're kind of interested in spiritual questions more generally. But in no way like any sort of one religion.
No affiliation or whatever.
Yeah, and they weren't in Michigan, and they didn't become religious when we moved to Todd County. And even the extended family in Todd County are not that religious. I do have a great aunt. She goes to the Church of the Nazarene, which I went there pretty often. And then my dad's side is Lutheran. My dad isn't, but his side of the family is Lutheran.
Right.
So I went to Bible camp and all those sorts of things. But I was the kid at Bible camp. They give those little pipe cleaners too, and they're supposed to make, I don't know what they were supposed to make, but I made like the Egyptian symbol for life, and then got sent home. And I was like, what? But it's about life, and it's vaguely like a crucifix,
right? Right.
Close enough.
So I was a weird kid from an early age. So. And I was interested in those things, and I loved Greek myths as soon as I was able to read. That was one of the first books that my mom bought for me, was this huge, colorful Greek myth book, and I'd read it over and over and over again. So no formal religious training in the least, but I like religious stories, and I like those questions. So, and there is a kind of story where I think I had a somewhat of a mystical experience when I was a kid, or depression. I don't know which one it was, but it was one of those.
Right.
And it might have been both of those.
Sure, yeah.
But without any sort of God involved. So it was like an agnostic,
it was just
atheistic, we're all going to die and there might be nothing on the other side moment.
One of those, yeah.
That I'm sure a lot of people go through. But
sure.
But it seems like one bump on the road of a very long, like I've always been interested in the possibility of a supernatural. In the transcendent. Yeah. I had a strong earth consciousness from a very early age. Like I thought I could talk to animals and plants. I still do. Think I can do this. Why not?
Right.
I talk to them. I'm not certain how much they hear.
Sure.
Like I still try.
Yeah, of course.
You can talk at them.
Exactly. Every now and then. Sometimes the cat listens to me. Sometimes he doesn't. But
yeah. It's always. I mean, it's. I find myself in a sort of weird, unique position in that I'm, not particularly anything. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not even really atheist. I'm not particularly anything.
Right. Yeah.
It's just like, but I'm interested in all of it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like all the religion that I've come into contact with is interesting.
Yeah.
And so so I wanted to
mine's about the same then.
Yeah.
I think that it's all a very interesting question. And I think religion has some of the most interesting questions.
Yeah.
That nothing else has. Like so going into a college and like having to choose a major. I went through, first started psychology because I thought that's what that's what all this means, right? So it's about people, it's about humans, but people are crazy, and I was like, I can't quite handle it. That's right. So I couldn't handle that, so I moved to philosophy, and I think that's fascinating too. But then ultimately, those questions weren't the ones I wanted to ask, and the religious studies questions were the ones. Like those are the ones I'm interested in, and there are no answers, right? So I was interested in the answers to these questions, and then eventually either gave up or became comfortable with the fact that there weren't any.
Right.
Which is nice, right? So, and I find a sort of, like, I think I like I'm pluralistic in the sense that I look at all these different religions and they all seem pretty likely. They all, even the new ones that everyone makes fun of, like when people start talking about Scientology, and I was like, yeah, why not? Yeah, seems just as likely as anything else anybody else has ever said. And I don't just mean the religions, right? So it seems about as likely as any. Like we're born, right? A lot of silly, stupid things happen to us, right? And we die.
Yeah.
So how do we handle that?
So you have to make a story out of that in some way.
Right.
So,
that's right. And people have made some good ones.
Yeah.
People are still making good ones.
Yeah.
So.
Well, really quickly, also, I wanted to ask you about your general dissertation topic. Like, what, if you can think of a sort of like very accessible way to get into that, or sort of tease that out. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know how accessible I've been so far. So maybe not easily. But my dissertation topic, it's about East Asian religion. Yeah. But I focused on a Japanese Zen mystic, Hakuin, who's most famous for the koan, What is the Sound of One Hand Clapping?
Oh, okay.
So
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. He's nice. Great. And he was an artist. And I did a kind of I did a bit of a somewhat of a biography, I guess, of a little bit. So I looked at a lot of historical writings. He wrote a lot of letters. He wrote several autobiographies. I looked at his art, and I made the claim that what happened is there was this turning moment in the history of Zen Buddhism where it was a little on the decline, right? Yeah. So it was kind of disappearing, and that period in the 18th century was not seen as being very phenomenal as far as religious thought is concerned, except for Hakuin. Everyone always says, except for Hakuin, at least Hakuin, because he did say some really interesting things. And he turned something that was mostly practiced by the elite into something that was accessible to a large number of people during a time when Japan was doing the same thing, right? So this is the time that ukiyo-e, that woodblock printing, was being developed. So everyone had this artwork, no matter how much they made, right? So they kind of save up to get this poster of perhaps a kabuki artist, right? So maybe not this famous piece of landscape painting, but instead this kabuki artist that I saw and I loved, or something like that. So there's a popularization of culture. Yeah. And Hakuin tapped into that. Okay. He created his paintings, had them reproduced using the woodblock printing technology that was becoming really affordable, and just disseminated his artworks, just gave them out to people. And he tried to talk about Zen theology in a way that was easily accessible. He put them into songs. He made little like pop songs, basically that were reminiscent of other songs of the time.
Yeah,
like Weird Al Yankovic, just like full of Buddhist
I
theology.
See.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's some really great stuff. I can only assume, right? So, and it becomes incredibly popular. Mm-hmm. And now Rinzai Zen Buddhism is probably has been one of the most globally influential versions of Buddhism, right? Second at the moment to Tibetan Buddhism,
and that's
been recently. He was a Rinzai Zen Buddhist, right? Okay. So there are other kinds of Zen Buddhism, but they take. It grows such that any sort of Zen master in Rinzai Zen right now traces their lineage back to Hakuin. It goes as far back to him. He's the sort of father of all the current lines. So it becomes incredibly important. So and the United States became interested in Buddhism mostly because of D.T. Suzuki, who is a Rinzai Zen Buddhist, trained at Kyoto School, right? Kyoto University. So he was this sort of influential.
That was in like the 60s, like late 50s, 60s?
Yeah.
Okay.
So and then Tibetan Buddhism has become globally important too.
Right.
But that was a little after, right? So Rinzai Zen was a little before. So that's the sort of claim to fame in the dissertation is that, so how did he do this? Well, it's because he wasn't a mountain hermit. Because that's that sort of expectation is that monks are off in the middle of nowhere all the time.
Sure.
He wasn't. He interacted with large crowds of people. He was political.
Yeah.
He gave these large sermons, and he made it simpler, right? He made it something that could be understood popularly.
Yeah.
And so through that sort of popular charisma and his use of his art, right, to communicate, try to express ideas that were impossible to express, right? Which could be said about any sort of mysticism, of course. But he made Zen Buddhism. He put Zen Buddhism on the map, right? So it made it a global phenomenon generations after he lived.
Yeah.
So it's mostly about his charisma and saying, he was
nice.
He was like the cult leader of the day.
Yeah. He was like a popularizer.
He was a popularizer. That's
awesome. Very cool. Joe, you got a question? I know you got to get out of here, Brandon. I want to.
Like Steve Jobs.
Like Steve Jobs.
Hakuin is basically the Japanese Steve Jobs.
Right.
That's right. That's right.
That's
actually Iwata was the Japanese Steve Jobs, but who passed away just recently. But
the Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
I'm a little worried about Nintendo. Actually,
I was gonna say since Super Mario Bros. 2, the one that came with the Mario
SNES.
Kart.
Right.
Yeah.
I got my Super Nintendo.
Right.
And it came with Mario Bros. 2, Super Mario World 2.
Yeah.
And it came with Super Mario Kart.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
I wonder if Tiff would stop at stop signs in Super Mario Kart.
That's a great question.
She'd be like, gotta stop.
Would she be shooting red shells?
That's the thing. But I think that's the
Dropping
thing.
banana
That's
peels.
another good question is there enough of a disconnect between these red shells and this cartoony little
right.
Is that Grand
violence?
Theft Auto?
Right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Is that violence or not?
Wile E. Coyote never catches a break. He's trying to kill this roadrunner.
He's trying to eat him. Yeah. Which, as a carnivore nation, isn't that okay?
Right.
Like, why are we angry at him? He's basically the American.
Not only
he's
is
the
he
American colonist.
Not only is
he wants to conquer the wild and eat it.
Yeah. And he's supporting industry while he's doing it.
Acme. That's right. He is supporting industry.
I have a question.
And he's the bad guy. He's the bad guy.
What is going on?
I have a question.
Liberal.
Pinko. Yeah.
So I was with my family last weekend for my brother-in-law's birthday. You were there.
I was there.
But you had already left at this point.
Yep.
And we were talking about the meat industry. And my dad's kind of in this place where he's at that age where his kids have left and he's really attached to like his cats. He's starting to feel like, he needs to take these cats are his responsibility, and if something happens to those cats, it's his fault, right?
Yeah.
So he's starting to feel weird about like, okay, well, pigs, bacon is smarter than the cats, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then we were sitting there kind of talking about it. He was getting super uncomfortable, and then I'm like, is it legal to farm and eat dogs? And he was like, no, stop talking. But I was thinking, like, is it legal to eat your dog? Can you legally eat your dog? And is that a question you've really thought about?
I don't think it is, actually, because you can. If it was a dog that you owned, you could get sued for
animal cruelty.
Yeah, that's what I think.
So that's interesting.
It is.
Because if it wasn't your dog, it was a stray, and you just hunted it down the street,
right?
Probably not.
So I mean,
I'm a vegetarian, so I'm being kind of grotesque with this, but
yeah. So I've kind of dabbled in vegetarianism.
Yeah.
And anytime I cook for myself, I eat vegetarian because it's icky for me to handle the meat, right?
Oh yeah, it's icky. When I cook for other people, I handle the meat, but I'm a vegetarian,
right?
So it's
and I feel like I've been on my way out of eating meat for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't know. We'll see where I end up.
So, is your father now vegetarian? Like, is that like those questions have gotten into his head? And
well, he's not yet, but he's been looking into like meat substitutes and that kind of stuff. Because he doesn't know what to eat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He doesn't eat a ton of, he doesn't not eat vegetables, but, his mother was.
He's a meat and potatoes.
Right.
Southern
His mother,
yeah.
Every Sunday we used to go to my grandmother's house and she would cook up just a lard feast. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And it was
that's
fantastic.
Southern cooking. Right? That's right.
But it startled me that I'm 29 years old and I never really thought about the fact that, or thought about the question of, is it legal for me to eat my dog? Because it's completely legal for me to eat this other animal, this pig, that's probably much smarter than my dog.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, well,
it's more intelligent, but it's not more social than your dog.
Right.
Not in any way, shape, or form, yeah.
So that, made me think, okay, so what's the criteria for legally killing an animal? Is it okay, well, some people think pigs are cute, but I'd say the majority of people think, okay, yeah, pigs are ugly.
Yeah.
They're dirty.
Yeah.
They're fat.
Yeah.
And they taste good.
Right.
But they don't know what a dog tastes like because they haven't eaten. But the dog is social. The dog is man's best friend.
Right. Yeah.
So at some point,
and the cat is somewhat social.
Sure.
Yeah.
And at some point, we as people have decided what worth these animals have, right?
Right. The dog wouldn't be as social as it is if it hasn't been bred to be social.
Right. So that was our choice. Right. And I have a problem with that. Like, I have a problem with the fact that you're not basing it on something other than just because we decided. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. So you don't like that? You don't like how arbitrary it might have? Yeah,
I don't. I really have. I'm troubled by it.
We haven't given them all puzzles to solve, and the ones that can do the best, we don't kill them. Like
right. So. And that's the funny thing is, like, I still eat meat. I just ate like some chicken yesterday.
Yeah.
Today actually at Chipotle, but at the same time, my brain says if I'm eating this chicken and I'm okay with it, if I'm eating this beef or if I'm eating this pork and I'm okay with it, I should be okay with eating. If my dog were to get hit by a car, I should be okay with eating him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Should you?
That's the thing. That's the question.
So again, I'm a vegetarian, so why am I arguing against you? But so the argument against that though is that you knew him,
right?
Yes.
You know his name. You spent time with him. I mean, by this argument,
let's back up.
Now I'm backing it back up. Like,
right,
so
let's
then
back
I could
up.
eat a human. I don't know. Right.
Right.
So
right.
Maybe that's not exactly.
That's not the only reason.
Right. Let's back up. And I'm talking about if I knew a pig and I developed a relation, I'm not going to eat that pig.
Right.
I probably won't.
No.
But legally, can I eat my dog? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Dog no still.
Dog no. Pig,
pigs.
Yes.
Yeah. I have a friend who owns a pig. He has and she's okay. She's not very social. She's smart. But she's not very social.
Not
she's
for
too
food
smart
purposes.
to be social.
No.
Yeah.
She's just
for social purposes.
He has dogs, cats, pigs, chickens.
Yeah. Because some people will buy and raise pigs to kill, to eat.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's the thing. So, yeah.
So I'm at I don't know where I stand on it.
Right.
I'm leaning towards like, I love my dog. I'm an animal person.
Yeah.
I should not be eating these things. You know what I mean?
Right.
But at the same time, like, can there be? Okay, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. I'm not going to do it. But I think it's legal to personally eat your dog in like 40 something states. If it's a personal thing, I think it's legal because I never thought to Google it.
Yeah.
And Tiff Googled it, and she's like, in 40 something states, if it's a personal thing, you can eat dog, I think.
Oh my goodness.
And you can't, no one can say it's animal cruelty. You can't.
Surely you have to like kill them in a certain way or
probably.
Something. That's
but
still
technically,
and maybe animal cruelty laws only exist in some states. I don't know for certain.
Yeah, I don't know.
Sorry, listeners. I didn't mean
a vegetarian detour.
Right. I'm just here's all I'm saying is we need to ask the questions, why do we do what we do?
Right.
I think that's important.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, regardless of what we end up at, I mean, the fact that I never thought about it because I'm so used to it was troubling to me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, you could take that down, you know, the path of religion and you know, believing something because you're supposed to, you know?
Sure.
Do you really believe something until you've wrestled with it?
Right.
You know?
Right.
And that's what's expected of something like a video game is that does it get you to think about it?
Yes.
In a way.
Yeah.
For you, it was just dinner. That's
right.
Dinner was art. Dinner was transformative.
Right. Yes, exactly. All right. Yeah. This will be an interesting thing. I want to try this out just for fun.
Yeah.
Future of religion in one sentence. You're not going to be held to this. Nobody's going to hold you to this. Future of religion in one sentence. Brandon Harwood.
It'll never go away.
Okay.
It'll always be here.
I'm gonna say, yeah, it's coming back, Joe.
Dog eat dog, bro. That doesn't make any sense.
All right. Well, this has been fantastic.
It's been fun.
Yeah, this has been very good. We'll try the sign off. We always try this, and we never prep anybody for it, so we'll see how it goes. You done good, Joe?
You done good, Brandon.
You done good, Will.
Yeah. All right.
And then you say,
"Oh, you done good, Joe." Again. Wait, no. Everybody done.
It goes infinitely. It's an infinite circle.
Yeah,
we just do this
it's
forever.
The snake biting its own tail.
No, it just needs to end on the 1 out of 10. Okay.
Oh, Joe's a dummy. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Don't eat your dogs.
Thank you.